Marie, and I am the second member of the Methodical Madness. Today I'll be reviewing I'd Tell You I Love You, But Then I'd Have to Kill You by Ellie Carter. Over the next couple weeks, I will be reviewing all of the books released so far in the Gallagher Academy series, and when the fourth one is released in June, I'll be reviewing that too. So on Monday, you'll get another review of one of Allie's books from Kat. She'll be reviewing Heist Society, which is a really good book, and I'm sure you guys will love the review for it. So be on the lookout for that. That should be out on Monday. A little bit about me. I am a nerd. I love bubble wrap and making costumes, and I love to sing. So apologies in advance for any time I break out into song, because my life is a little bit of a musical. So let's get down to the review, and I will start with an overview of the plot. So the little town of Roseville, Virginia is home to one of the country's most prestigious boarding schools, the Gallagher Academy for Exceptional Young Women. Surprisingly, no one in Roseville is very proud of this fact. They're completely convinced that the Gallagher Academy is just a school for snooty rich girls who have nothing better to do with their time. But while the Gallagher Academy might on occasion house one of said snooty rich girls, it's not in the business of bringing quality education to carefree heiresses. It's actually in the business of training spies. Our heroine is Cami Morgan, Gallagher legacy, and the headmistress's daughter. Her code name is the Chameleon. She's very proud of the fact that she can blend into her surroundings and not be seen. Now, you might be thinking, doesn't this kind of go against what every typical heroine wants? It does. But Cami is not your typical heroine. For one, she's not clumsy. In fact, thanks to P&E training, she could probably kick your butt into next Tuesday. She's also not naive, although one of the major themes of the book is Cami discovering and learning to live with the choice she's made for her life and the sacrifices that she's going to have to make for it. In Cami's world, everything is based on lies, half-truths, facades, and fabrications. Her legend, her cover story, is her life, and any hesitation on her part concerning that legend could get her killed. Cami knows that life is not a bed of roses. We come to understand that fact when we realize that her father died while on a mission and he was never recovered. And she doesn't even know how he died because the information is classified. I think the fact that she's so world savvy is one of the reasons she gets involved with Josh in the first place. For her, he's a chance at normalcy, which in her life is an adventure. I'd Tell You I Love You, But Then I'd Have to Kill You is in essence a story of boy meets girl. Or, in Cami and Josh's sake, a tale of ordinary boy meets extraordinary girl, who he thinks is an ordinary girl, but she's really not, and he doesn't know that she's lying to him, but she's also lying to her school, and trying to keep her two different covers and legends separate from each other, and, you know, lying to your school when your school is a school of spies is kind of a stupid idea because they're the ones that know you the best, and they can tell pretty quickly if you're lying, so it's not exactly a good idea. But she does it anyway, trying to live a legend she's created to make sure the boy doesn't, 1, find out she's a Gallagher girl, and 2, find out she's a spy, while simultaneously balancing a legend she didn't even intentionally create in order to hide from her sisterhood that she is dating said boy, and she shouldn't even have to do this in the first place. I mean, her family, her school, her sisters, they're supposed to be the ones that she can tell anything to. They're the only people she can be herself around, so this whole thing is completely and utterly messed up. She should never, under any circumstances, have to hide who she is from her sisters and her family and her friends, but she does. I think my brain just broke. Oh. Medic! Help, little help here. Allow me to simplify so as not to turn all of your brains to mush. Cami is never seen unless she wants to be seen. That is, until Josh comes along. He approaches her at a fair while she's kind of in the middle of a covert operations assignment, and things just get crazier from there. Because for all of Cami's abilities, for all her knowledge, for all her martial arts training, she can't for the life of her converse normally with the male half of the species. She could take down a combatant with an uncooked piece of spaghetti, and she has issues with this. But give her a little credit. She lives with her mom, she goes to an all-girls boarding school, and her dad died, so he's not even a part of her life at this point. The only men she comes into contact with are her teachers, one of which is a nerd, and the other of which is wanted in so many countries and so paranoid that he gets a new face every school year. It's like a tradition. Up to her sophomore year, Cami has had very little connection with the opposite sex. I'd include Mr. Solomon, who's her new very gorgeous Kovops teacher, but by this point in the story, he's had very little presence in her life, and she's not exactly sure whether he hates her or is kind of acting as a tough love pseudo father figure for her, so she's kind of confused on that front. So getting back to the boy. His name is Josh, and he is your quintessential boy next door. His mom enters pie baking competitions, and his father wants him to take over the family business someday, which is something he's not exactly sure if he wants. Basically, he's everything that Cammy isn't. And naturally, if someone sees the girl that no one is supposed to see, her roommates and her friends will get extremely suspicious of said boy. So Cammy, along with her roommates Macy, Liz, and Bex, do what any teenage girls attending spy school would do when faced with a threat. Recon. Tapping the phones, going through their emails, rummaging through trash. Technically, it is free game once it hits the sidewalk. And of course, consulting Macy, who's their resident boy expert. So she basically translates everything for them. The mission to make sure Josh isn't a threat to Cammy is a lot of fun, and it continues to be so as Cammy tries desperately to keep her two lives and two identities and legends from overlapping, which they inevitably do, in a rather spectacular fashion. But to find out how, you'll have to read it for yourself. The prose is light and chock full of humor, from the descriptions to the dialogue. Ally Carter kind of writes the way that I think and speak, which is probably the reason I was so drawn to it in the first place. There's lots of wit, which you can probably tell just by reading the book's title. And the next books in the series are also packed full of wordplay, and I'm sure you'll enjoy these books just by reading them. But despite all of the fun, the plotlines in the books aren't just utter fluff. The series arcs are just coming into play in book 1, but even the slight mention of them is enough to let us know that, like Cammy's worldview, it's not all going to be sunshine and roses. Book 1 is just the introduction into Cammy's world, but as I'm sure you'll notice with the next coming reviews, Cammy's world might look glamorous and fantastical on the outside, but there is an edge of darkness hanging around it. Book 2 and 3 delve into that a little bit more, flirting with darkness and asking more questions than they answer, but we'll get into that next week. Another thing I love about Ally Carter's books is that she's not going to give you a happily ever after neatly wrapped up with a 007 bow. Personally, I find a book way more satisfying if the hero has to work for their happily ever after, sacrifice things. And even when they do get it, it's not exactly everything they expected or wanted. It's not perfect. This book has that kind of an ending, but leaves things extremely open for a sequel. I Tell You I Love You, But Then I'd Have to Kill You gets 5 out of 5 stars, and there's a reason it's one of my favorites. Although I will admit that book 2 is definitely my favorite out of the series so far, but we will review that one next week. You can pick up Love You Kill You at your local library or wherever books are sold. So leave me your comments in the comment box. I'd love to hear what you think, and I'd love to hear if you read it or if you want to read it or any questions you might have, and I'll see if I can get back to you on those. And so we will be reviewing Cross My Heart and Hope to Spy next week, so I hope you tune in for that. So happy reading, guys. Thanks. Bye.